When I first stepped off the plane in Jeddah, I felt the dry wind kiss my face like a divine blessing. My heart trembled with excitement. I was finally here, in the land of the Prophet.
The testimonies featured on this channel are presented as received, reflecting the personal experience and perspectives of the individuals who have generously shared them with us. We encourage our viewers to approach these testimonies with compassion and understanding, as these are personal testimonies of people involved. We also encourage you to always refer to the Holy Bible and the teachings of Jesus Christ and His apostles for guidance. You can consider subscribing to the channel to support our ministry. Like, share, and comment with the country you are watching from. Watch to the end, because what you are about to hear will challenge your belief.
The world is full of stories that shake the foundation of what we believe to be true. But some stories don't just challenge faith, they tear it open, exposing what lies beneath the layers of tradition, ritual, and fear. This is the story of a woman named Lisa Ivanova. Born in Russia, raised as a devout Muslim, and later sent on a pilgrimage to the holiest land in Islam, Saudi Arabia. She thought she was about to fulfill her life's greatest spiritual duty, but what she found there was something entirely different. Her journey was supposed to bring peace. Instead, it brought torment. Her devotion was meant to draw her closer to Allah, but it led her to question everything she ever knew about Him. This is not just a story of belief. It's a story of discovery, betrayal, fear, and ultimately, revelation. For Lisa, what began as a sacred pilgrimage turned into a nightmare that would change her life forever. And as she uncovered secrets that were never meant to be spoken aloud, she became a hunted woman, chased not by strangers, but by those who once called her sister. Tonight, we travel into the heart of Mecca, through the eyes of a woman who saw more than she was ever meant to see. Let's hear from Lisa.
My mother used to tell me, "Lisa, if you ever make it to Mecca, your sins will be washed away." I held on to that promise as I walked through the crowded airport, surrounded by women in black abayas and men chanting softly under their breath. Everything felt sacred, every step, every glance, every breath. When I reached Mecca, the sight of the Kaaba made my heart stop. Thousands of people circled it like a living sea, hands raised, tears streaming. I felt something powerful, something ancient, but I couldn't name it. That night, as I lay in my hotel room overlooking the Grand Mosque, I couldn't sleep. The rhythmic hum of prayers below felt hypnotic. But deep inside, something didn't feel right. It was a quiet whisper, like a wind brushing against my soul. The next morning, during Tawaf, the circling of the Kaaba, I looked up at it again. The black stone, the gold embroidery, the crowd moving in perfect rhythm. It was mesmerizing. But as I watched, I saw something strange. A group of men in white robes entered a restricted area beside the Kaaba. They weren't praying. They were bowing, yes, but not to Allah. Their hands touched the Kaaba's wall, their lips murmuring something that wasn't Arabic. It sounded older, more primitive. I froze. Something deep in my heart said, "This isn't right." Later, I asked one of the scholars who guided our group, "What is the Kaaba exactly? Why do we circle it?" He smiled, but didn't meet my eyes. "It is the house of Allah, built by Abraham." "But," I pressed, "why does it look so much like ancient pagan temples I studied in history?" His face hardened. "Sister Lisa, do not question what is sacred. Doubt is the whisper of Shaitan." That night, I couldn't stop thinking about what I'd seen. I searched through my Quran app, then online, then in the old books I brought from home. What I found made my blood run cold. Long before Islam, the Kaaba had been a shrine for hundreds of idols. Each tribe of Arabia kept their own god inside that black cube. When Muhammad came, he destroyed the idols, but he kept the structure. The very place that once held statues of stone now became the symbol of worship for millions. The thought hit me like thunder. What if we never stopped worshiping idols? What if the Kaaba itself had become one? I felt sick. I wanted to scream, but surrounded by millions of worshipers, I felt like the only one awake in a dream. The next day, I met a woman named Fatima from Indonesia. She was quiet, but kind. As we sat near the Zamzam well, I told her what I'd discovered. Her eyes widened in horror. She whispered, "Sister, don't speak like this. They will hear you. People have died for less." That night, something extraordinary happened. I couldn't sleep again. The call to prayer echoed through the air, and I felt heavy, like something unseen was pressing on my chest. I tried to pray, but the words wouldn't come. I broke down in tears. "Allah, why do I feel lost in your holiest place?" And then, suddenly, the air in my room shifted. The lights flickered, and I felt warmth on my face as if the sun had risen inside the room. When I opened my eyes, I saw a man standing near the window, clothed in light. His face was calm, radiant, yet gentle. I thought I was dreaming, but he spoke. His voice wasn't thunder. It was love itself. "Lisa, I have known you before you were born. You are searching for truth, but truth is not found in the stones of man." I trembled. "Who are you?" He looked at me, eyes filled with compassion. "I am the way, the truth, and the life." My heart nearly stopped. I had never heard anyone speak like that, not even the imams. "I don't understand," I whispered. He stepped closer, and I felt peace, real peace, like nothing I'd ever known. "You were taught to fear God, but perfect love casts out fear. I came not to destroy you, but to free you." And in that moment, I knew. It was Jesus. I collapsed to my knees, sobbing. Every lie I'd ever believed started to crumble. Then, just as suddenly as he appeared, he was gone. The warmth faded, but something inside me had changed forever. When I returned home to Russia, I couldn't keep silent. I told my family, my community, my friends. That was when the persecution began. My father called me a disgrace. My brothers threatened to kill me. The mosque banned me. My phone was filled with messages calling me a traitor, an infidel, a woman possessed. They told me I had betrayed my people, but how could I explain what I saw? How could I deny the truth after meeting him face to face? I went into hiding for months, moving between cities, constantly looking over my shoulder. I lost everything: my home, my name, my peace. But I had found something greater: the truth. And that truth had a name: Jesus.
When I fled my hometown, I left with nothing but a backpack and my passport. My family had turned against me, and every message I received was either a threat or a curse. They said I had brought shame to our bloodline. My mother cried every night, not because I was gone, but because I was lost to Jesus. I remember that night vividly, the night I escaped. My cousin had overheard me talking to a friend about what happened in Saudi Arabia. That evening, I saw 3 men waiting outside my apartment. Their faces were familiar, but twisted with anger. My heart pounded as I slipped through the back door, ran through the alley, and didn't stop until I reached the train station. The cold air bit into my skin as I boarded a night train heading north. I remember looking out the window, the world blurring past in streaks of gray. I whispered to myself, Jesus, if you're real, don't let them find me. For days, I hid in hostels and cheap hotels, changing my name every time I checked in. But fear followed me like a shadow. I could feel it in every footstep behind me, every door that creaked open. One night, while staying in a small inn near the border, I woke up to a knock on my door. My heart froze. I didn't move. Another knock, louder this time. Then a voice whispered, "Lisa, it's me, Fatima." I opened the door slowly, and there she was, the same woman I met in Mecca. Her face was pale, her eyes red, as if she'd been crying. She said, "They're watching you. There's a fatwa online. Someone posted your photo." I couldn't breathe. My name was on a death list. Fatima told me she'd also begun questioning things after returning home. She'd seen what I saw at the Kaaba, but she'd been too afraid to speak. She said, "I can't live this lie anymore." I prayed to Allah for peace, but the more I prayed, the more empty I felt. We stayed up all night talking about faith, fear, and the man in light who appeared to me. When I told him his words, she covered her face and wept. "Lisa, I saw him too," she whispered, "in a dream the night before we left Mecca." That night, we both knew we were being drawn towards something greater than we'd ever known. The next morning, we tried to cross the border into Kazakhstan, hoping to reach a place where we could start over. But halfway through, the authorities detained us for questioning. They accused us of carrying false documents. In the holding room, I prayed silently, trembling. One of the officers, a tall man with a scar under his eye, looked at me strangely. "You're Russian," he said. "Why were you in Saudi Arabia?" I hesitated. "For pilgrimage." He leaned closer. "And why are you running now?" I didn't know what to say. My voice cracked. "Because I found something they don't want me to find." He stared at me for a long time. Then his tone softened. "You mean Jesus?" My eyes widened. How could he know? He turned his badge slightly, showing a small silver cross hidden beneath his collar. "You are not alone," he said quietly. "There are others like you." That was the first time I realized there were secret believers, men and women hiding their faith in silence across the region. They live like ghosts, praying in basements, whispering hymns under their breath. They didn't have churches, they had faith. The officer helped us cross that night. We walked for hours through freezing wind, following him through a small forest. Every branch crack sounded like a gunshot. Every rustle made us jump. When we finally reached the border, he stopped and looked at us. "If you ever find you," he said, "don't renounce him. Even if it costs you your life, he's worth it." We crossed, and when I turned back, he was gone. Fatima and I found shelter in a small village. We shared one room and lived off bread and water for weeks. Sometimes we'd read pages from a small New Testament that someone had smuggled to her years ago. Each word felt like a spark in the darkness. But peace didn't last long. One day, while walking through the market, a man grabbed my arm. "Lisa Ivanova," he hissed. His accent was familiar, Arabic. My heart stopped. I broke free and ran through the crowd, shouting Fatima's name, but when I looked back, she was gone. That was the last time I saw her. I searched for her for days, going door to door, asking questions, praying desperately. Some said she'd been taken by men in black cars. Others said she'd escaped further west. But I knew deep down something terrible had happened. I cried out to Jesus, "Why? Why did you save me but not her?" For days, silence. Then one night, as I sat alone in that freezing room, I heard it again. The same voice that had spoken to me in Saudi Arabia. "Lisa, I did not lose her. She is with me." Tears streamed down my face. The pain was unbearable, but in that pain, I felt his presence stronger than ever before. He said, "You will not die in fear. You will speak. You will tell the truth." And in that moment, I knew my life had a new purpose, but fulfilling it would mean going back to the land I fled, back to the people who wanted me dead, because the truth I carried wasn't meant to be hidden. It was meant to be told. And so I prepared myself to return. I gathered every bit of courage I had left. I prayed through every tear, every trembling breath. The fear never left, but His peace was greater. When I stepped on the train heading back towards Moscow, I whispered, "Lord, if I must die for you, let it be a death that wakes others." The wheels began to move. My hand shook, but my heart was steady. I was going home, not as the same woman who had left, but as a witness of the truth that had changed everything.
The train ride back to Russia felt endless. Every sound, the wheels grinding, the whistle crying into the night, echoed the storm in my heart. I didn't know what awaited me. I only knew one thing. I couldn't stay silent anymore. When I arrived in Moscow, the air felt heavier than I remembered. The streets were gray, the sky bruised with clouds. I stayed in a small room near the outskirts of the city, trying to keep a low profile. I used a different name, Elena, and avoided any contact with my old community. But word travels fast among the faithful. Within 2 weeks, someone recognized me. It was after a Sunday morning when I dared to visit a small, underground Christian fellowship I'd been told about. They met in an abandoned storage building. Their worship whispered so quietly it could barely be heard. The leader, an elderly woman named Anya, greeted me with trembling hands. "You came," she said. "We've prayed for you." There were only 9 of them, huddled around a wooden table with a single candle. They sang softly, no instruments, no microphones, just broken voices filled with love. It wasn't like the grand mosques I once knew. There was no grandeur, no ritual, only hearts open before God. When I heard them pray, I wept. Their words weren't memorized verses. They were raw, like wounds bleeding truth. And for the first time, I realized worship wasn't about place or ritual. It was about spirit and truth. After the meeting, Anya took my hand and said, "You've been chosen to speak. Don't be afraid when the darkness comes. It will come, but so will the light." I didn't understand what she meant. Not yet. A few nights later, I woke up to banging on my door. I froze. Someone shouted in Russian, "Open up! Police!" My body went cold. I barely had time to hide the Bible under the floorboard before they burst in. 2 men in plain clothes pushed me against the wall. They said I was under investigation for religious disruption. I was dragged to a gray building downtown. Interrogation rooms, fluorescent lights, and cameras watching every move. They asked questions, one after another. Why did you leave Islam? Who are you meeting with? Are you spreading Christian propaganda? When I stayed silent, one of them slammed his fist on the table. You don't understand, do you? You're not allowed to speak against Islam here. You're making enemies of powerful people. I whispered, "The truth isn't against anyone." The man laughed. "Truth? You think your Western God will save you?" That night, they locked me in a dark room. I could hear the hum of the lights and the muffled cries of other prisoners. I was terrified. My faith, so bold a few weeks ago, began to crumble. I whispered into the darkness, "Jesus, are you still with me?" Hours passed. Silence. Then something strange happened. The room grew colder. The air thickened. I saw movement in the shadows, shapes forming on the walls. A whisper crawled into my ear, soft but venomous. "Where is your God now, Lisa?" My heart stopped. I shut my eyes and began to pray, but the whisper grew louder. "You've been deceived. You left the truth. You betrayed the prophet." I could feel a presence pressing down on me, suffocating me. My body trembled. I screamed inside my mind, "Jesus, help me!" And suddenly, everything stopped. A blinding light filled the room. The shadows vanished. In the center stood the same figure I saw in Saudi Arabia, clothed in radiant white. His eyes were filled with fire and love. He said nothing at first. He simply looked at me, and every ounce of fear melted away. Then he spoke. "You will walk through darkness, but I will be your light. They will try to silence you, but my words in your mouth will burn like fire." Tears streamed down my face. "I'm so afraid," I whispered. He smiled. "Fear not, Lisa. You were chosen not because you are strong, but because you were broken. In your weakness, my power is made perfect." The light faded, and I was alone again. But peace filled the room, a peace no prison could take away. The next morning, the guards came to release me. No explanation, no apology, just silence. It was as if someone had intervened. I stepped into the cold sunlight, my body trembling, but my spirit unshaken. From that day, I knew I couldn't run anymore. I began to share my story in secret, meeting with people who doubted, who were trapped in the same chains I once wore. But the more I spoke, the more danger followed. One evening, as I walked home from a small gathering, I noticed a black car trailing behind me. It slowed down whenever I did. My pulse quickened. I turned down an alley, but the car stopped at the corner, waiting. I ducked into a stairwell and hid behind a trash bin, my breath ragged. I could hear footsteps, heavy, slow, coming closer. Then, a voice, a man's voice, calm, steady. "Lisa, you can't hide forever." I pressed my hand over my mouth to stop the sound of my breathing. My heart pounded so loud it felt like it would burst. The footsteps stopped right outside. Then silence. When I looked again, the alley was empty. The car was gone. But deep down I knew it wasn't over. They were watching. They were waiting. That night I couldn't sleep. I packed my few belongings, ready to move again. But before leaving, I opened my Bible one last time. The page that fell open read, "If the world hates you, keep in mind that it hated me first." I closed the book and whispered, "Then let them hate me, Lord, as long as they see you through me." I didn't know where I was going next. I didn't even know if I'd survive the next month. But one thing was certain. I would not be silent. Not anymore. The truth I carried was worth dying for, because it was the truth that had set me free. And as I stepped into the freezing Moscow night, I heard his voice once more, faint but clear, whispering through the wind, "Go, Lisa, I am with you always."